It takes a little extra courage to be the first one, the lead-off batter, as we like to say. And Peter Talty is going to come up here now, and he's going to tell you his sneaker journey. That's not a teaser. I don't know what is, but Peter, come on up. You can adjust if you need to.
Thank you, Mark. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Let me tell you about my feet. It's exciting. It's exciting as it sounds. Yes, okay. Now, I was born with a club foot. If you don't know what a club foot is, it's a foot that's born that can't be a kid that's born with a foot that can't be at 90 degrees angle, so therefore it can't support itself. So I was about 3 days old. They did surgery and they repaired that foot, and they got it back into proper alignment, and they realigned the ligaments and the tendons, and so I had a functional foot. So I don't remember any of that. I don't want to. And then as I got a little older and got very active, they could see that the foot was working well because I was an active kid. And then as I got a little older again, I went out into the world to play, and I found that I could run and jump and climb and do all things that little boys like to do. And I had to do this all with a high-top shoe. Now, initially, the high-top shoe was not a big deal to my friends, but then they started getting nasty. And they started saying things to me like, Peter Talty's a baby. He's got baby shoes on. Because I had these high shoes, you know. So that made me a little angry, a little irritable. And then I went to grammar school, and the kids in grammar school picked up on that. I don't know if the kids at my neighborhood told them or what, but when I got there, they were ready, and they tried to say, well, look at the shoes he's got. So I went home whining to my mother. That's the appropriate thing. Went back, said to my mother, I said, I don't want to wear these shoes anymore. I don't want them. They're all laughing at me. I don't want to wear these shoes. She says, Peter, you've got to wear the shoes. The doctor said, if you don't wear the shoes, then the surgery won't work, and you won't be able to walk. And then she got a little dramatic. You'll be a cripple the rest of your life. So trying to get my attention, but I couldn't hear it. So I fought her. I call them shoe wars. We had shoe wars all the time, where she'd see me going out the door with the sneakers on. Peter, get back, get your shoes on. No, I don't want wars. So after a bit, she got tired of the wars. Now we had another thing going on. I was raised in a poor family. We didn't have any money. We didn't have a dependable dad who brought home his paycheck. And so we didn't have much money. Now these special shoes I had to have made, prescription shoes, one pair of shoes cost the same thing as a month's rent in the flats we were living in. So it was a big drain. So my mother was a little conflicted, you know. She's pushing me to wear these shoes, but she knows if I wear them out, they have to be replaced. So they couldn't replace them because we didn't have the kind of income that we could do that. So I would end up with probably having one pair for a year. And I'd beat the heck out of those shoes. Not to destroy them, so I didn't have to wear them. I probably could have done that, but I didn't. And the shoes held up pretty good, but they didn't hold up for a whole year. So as soon as they were all used up, back to sneakers. Well, as I get older, something changed with my feet. One foot grew naturally. The left foot grew naturally. And you can look at my shoes, you can see. And the right did not grow at the same rate. So after a little bit, when I got to be around 11 years old, one shoe was my foot was 2 sizes shorter than the other one. So now my mother couldn't afford the shoes, so she had a big meeting with me. She says, Peter, sit down, I'm going to talk to you. She says, your father and I talked it over, and we're not buying you any more orthopedic shoes. Oh, yeah? She says, you don't like to wear them. That's right. And she says, and we can't afford them. That's the bottom line. She says, so you got to wear sneakers and hope it all works out for you. Like I was going on a journey someplace, you know? So I wore these sneakers. But the problem was now we had a 2-size difference. So that small foot with the bigger sneaker was a little floppy. So I was a kid who loved to play all kinds of sports. And so I'd go to play baseball, for example, and I'd get a hit, and I'd be running to first base, and of course that one floppy sneaker would fly off. Another reason for the other kids on our team to ridicule me and make fun of me. Flying sneakers, there they go, flying again. I'm running on the stocking feet onto first base. So I went home to my mother, whining. Ma, you got to go and buy me 2 pairs of sneakers. One to fit the big foot and one to fit the small foot. I says, we don't have money for that, Peter. You know that. We can't buy you 2 pairs of sneakers. You got to get by as best you can. Give me some more Kleenex. I'll stuff it up a little more, stuff some more in there. So it wasn't very practical, of course. And so I got frustrated. So I realized she wasn't going to bail me out. So I took up a bunch of little jobs. I started helping boys that had paper routes, delivering their papers, and they would pay me. I would babysit my niece. I would rake leaves, do whatever I could do to earn the money to go and buy 2 pairs of sneakers. And when I got this pair of sneakers, and I felt so good to have them on, fitting properly. I could run and they didn't come off. It was wonderful. So I talk about small pleasures, it was a small pleasure. What to do with the other pair of sneakers? They're brand new. So I did is I put them back in the box with the tissue paper and folded them up and put them in my closet. So after a while, my mother said to me, Peter, I'm giving some stuff to Goodwill. I'm going to give those sneakers of yours to Goodwill. I was fine with me. I don't care. She said, well, you paid for them with your own money, so I thought I'd ask you. I said, I don't care. But I was always puzzled. What do you think Goodwill did when they opened that box? Brand new sneakers, but didn't match. What did they do with them? When they had 4 or 5 pairs of mine, and I gave them generously. I gave them to them. And as time went on and I got older, the size differential got much greater. Then it got to be a 13 on the left and a 9 on the right. And that's where I stayed for all that time until now. So all these years I've been at 13 and 9. It didn't grow anymore. I played a lot of basketball. I loved basketball. It was my favorite sport to play, to watch, to read about. I wasn't very good at it, but I loved the game. I loved it. And I had basketball sneakers. Worked out good. 2 sizes. But I developed a whole lot of pain in this right foot playing basketball. During the games and after, had this residual pain. So I ended up going to an orthopedic surgeon. He explained to me what happened. He says, what had happened to your foot, he took x-rays, he said, the bones were fused when you were an infant. And that was the proper procedure, to fuse those bones to give you that good stable ankle. But with all the basketball playing you've been doing, it's traumatized, and those bones have come apart, and there's arthritis, early arthritis growing in between the bones. That's what's causing all your pain. I said, was there any surgery? No, they can't do any surgery, nothing they can do. I suggested you give up basketball. So I didn't want to, but I had no choice. But a friend of mine suggested I try running, jogging. So I did, and I liked it. And I could find I could run several miles, and I didn't get the pain in my foot. It had to do with the fact that it wasn't the stop and go and the jumping and the pivoting you do in basketball, just straight running. Didn't traumatize my foot, so it worked out good. Problem comes up. Running shoes cost more than sneakers. Like 3 times more. So I had to buy 2 pair. So I got 2 pair. And of course, what do I do with the extra pair? Put them in a closet. Now there's a selection now in there in the closet, been accumulating. So the running was very, very good. I enjoyed it very much. But then I was getting older and I got married and I had a child and we had another child coming along and we were getting ready to buy our first house. And I thought this is an extravagance for me to go and spend all this money for 2 pair of running shoes. That seemed like pretty selfish on my part. So I just had to take another approach. So I had finished college and I had become an occupational therapist. And I read about an occupational therapist out in Arizona who created a little company, a nonprofit company, called the National Odd Shoe Exchange. She had worked with a number of people who had amputations, going into 1 shoe. Yeah. But no one was selling 1 shoe, they had to buy 2 pairs. Yeah. So she thought if she could some way match these people up. So I sent her all my dimensions, my width and length of both my feet. She had them, this was back in 1971, so it wasn't the computer searches you can do now in a minute. So she had a little 3x5 card box or something, and then she looked through them and couldn't find anybody to match me up with. So I thought, well, it was a waste. Well, I decided not to give up. So I wrote an ad to put in the local newspaper. And I still remember the ad. It said, man with 2 different sized feet looking for a man with same problem to share a cost of shoes. Put my phone number in there. The only response I got is my brother called me up pretending he was somebody else. A couple of salesmen called me up trying to sell me more shoes. Not at any deal or nothing. So I figured, well, that's another waste. However, what was not a waste. What happened was, a woman was watching 11 o'clock news. And this newscaster we had used to read a little human interest story at the end of each show. And he chose to read my ad on the ad. He said something like, I forget how they said, he said something like, you know, people today have different kinds of problems. Here's a unique problem. This man's looking for someone, and rather than my ad on the air. This woman went through her older newspapers about 2 weeks later, found my ad, called her son-in-law, who called me. We talked, we were a match. He had the same size feet as me, but the opposite. So we both instantly fell in love with each other on the phone. Just when we heard this, you know, I couldn't believe it. Then I found out he lived 20 minutes from me. They couldn't find me on a national search, but he's 20 minutes. He's also a distance runner. I know, this is wonderful. So we got together, and we began a relationship of buying shoes together. We go into a shoe store together. He'd pull out the shoes, find ones, and we weren't real particular about style and stuff like that. We were going to get them and match, got shoes. And then we discovered a whole nother world. You know, we got things like bedroom slippers that fit. We got boots, we got rubbers, then we got a pair of Crocs. We were like going crazy buying all these shoes. We were so excited. And then we both had a stockpile of running shoes at home that we were going to give to Goodwill. Now we don't. We give them to each other. So worked out wonderfully. For 41 years, we did this. And regardless of where we lived, we just mailed the shoes to each other, whatever we did. 41 years. It had to end at 41 years just because both of our feet had changed to the extent we didn't match up as good. So he had a wonderful line. He said, well, in the midst of all this, we were having all this excitement of all these shoes we were getting. He said, you know, Peter, whichever one of us dies first, the survivor is going to be the loudest mourner at the funeral. They'll be wailing in the back of the church, and people are going to say, who is that? You know, that's the guy who used to buy the shoes with. Now he's back on his own. Now, an interesting thing happened. Midway through this 41-year relationship, my partner's daughter was trying to be a journalist, and she wrote an article and sent it into Runner's World. The story was about us. She thought our story was kind of neat. They published it in Runner's World. Then, subsequent to that, my friend got a phone call from another writer from Tennessee, and he wanted to do a little more in-depth article. He wanted to come to town, take our pictures, and he told us he would send the article all around. He didn't know where it was going to end up. We said, sure, we'll do it. We didn't get paid or nothing. We just did it for the, good humor we had doing it. And about a month later, he calls me. He says, Peter, our article is out. It's been published. Guess where? I don't know. He says, the National Enquirer. So I'm in there with all kinds of stories. I immediately did the right thing. I rushed off to the supermarket and bought 15 copies. Standing in line to check out, the woman said to me, why are you buying all these? I said, I'm in there. She says, you're not. I said, I am. So I opened up the page and showed her the picture. She looks at me, looks at the page. That is you. Yes. So she picks up one of the copies, steps out into the aisle, and yells down to another cashier, Ellen, this guy is in here. I told you this stuff is true. So that's my story of my sneakers and my feet. Thank you very much.